This is WP TV.
Welcome back to the desk. I'm here with Justin, Chris, Dylan, and Samantha to talk about some Pioneer baseball and softball. Baseball team suffered a tough loss against Manhattanville yesterday, 8-4. Justin, can you take us through it?
Yeah, no doubt. If we take a look at the numbers from the game yesterday, they struggled a little bit. They ended up losing the game 8-4 against Manhattanville. Manhattanville just came off a loss. I'm sure they're ready to get a win. Overall, the game, once again, 8-4. They both had 11 hits, but the major difference I noticed was, especially in the first two innings, they left 5 guys on base, and you can't do that. First inning, they had 1 out, bases loaded, and they didn't finish the job. They got to get 1 or 2 of those guys in to give themselves an advantage. Now they're 7-7-2 on the season. Manhattanville, they won't see again. They're 6-8. Both teams batting below 300. It wasn't the prettiest game, but once again, Manhattanville comes out with the win.
Yeah, and the Pioneers went through 6 innings of scoreless baseball. When you're, failing to produce runs as they have been throughout the season, they got shut out 3 different times on their Florida trip, and it kind of looks like a little bit of a hangover here with the lack of bats in their lineup. Pioneers got to do something to generate some offense. Wyatt and I were on the call. We were saying it's nothing you can really do as a coach other than try to motivate your guys enough to want to get out to a better start. I mean, seriously, there's nothing you can really tell a guy to get hits early.
Right. And you guys, okay. Well, so what players stuck out to you guys, Justin?
Well, we talked about the pitchers in the season preview, and for me, I got to talk about Jeff Lombard. I really don't think his numbers do him justice on what he's been doing so far this season. He's a sophomore pitcher, and he can be a guy going forward that can really contribute to the rotation just because they're not exactly sure what they got. So in the game yesterday, he gave up 2 earned runs, gave up 3 hits. He also had 3 Ks and 3.2 innings pitched. Once again, he's got some things to work on, but he has a lot of moves in the arsenal that can provide good things for the Pioneer lineup.
That's great. Sam?
Unfortunately for me, the player who stood out was not a Pioneer. Who stood out for me was Robbie Lynch from Manhattanville. He's the 3rd baseman. He went 3 for 4. He had 3 RBIs. None of the Pioneers I felt did anything like this guy did. And unfortunately for us, he's not a Pioneer. So
yeah, he also had a homer, too, over the 375-foot fence in left field. It was a bomb.
So, Chris, what do you have?
I'm going to have to choose Jorge Salogden. He's the backup catcher for this team. He hasn't had all the opportunities, and Mike Knopf is definitely the starting catcher. But with a guy like this who had 2 hits yesterday, and he's really playing with a hot hand, he has 6 RBIs in his 7 starts, hitting .320 on the season. So this is a guy who deserves more at-bats going forward, and I'd like to see that from the Pioneers coming up.
Dylan?
For me, nothing out of the ordinary. It's got to be Micah Bate. I know we've said the kid's name time and time again here on the show, but yesterday he got 2 hits. But on top of that, he made one of the most ridiculous plays I've ever seen in a baseball game ever at any level, period. Runners on, bases loaded. Micah Bate throws out the runner tagging from 2nd to 3rd before the guy tagging from 3rd to home can cross the plate to save a run. I have never, ever seen a play like that in my 21 years of watching baseball.
As we said, the kid's probably going to go professionally. That was one of the greatest
He'll get paid to play baseball somewhere down the line.
One thing we discussed the other day, I don't think I've ever seen Micah Bate have a bad game, ever.
No, never.
I feel like this man is always producing no matter what the run total is at the end of the game, no matter the outcome, this man's always balling out, and you have to show him some legitimate respect for that.
So this team right now sits at 7-7-2 with those 2 ties coming in. Wayne, now the next 10 games going into NJAC play. Can you guys talk about what we should expect from this Pioneer team?
Yeah, no doubt. It's crazy to think the season already almost halfway over. I mean, we didn't see the first half of the season really because all those games were in Florida. So taking a look at the next 10 games coming up, they have a lot of NJAC opponents coming up. Teams like Kane, teams like Rutgers Newark, Rutgers Camden, NJCU. They close out the season at Rowan, so the next 2 games, a doubleheader, is going to be moved to this Sunday. It just got moved today. Rutgers Camden is sitting at 8-6 as of yesterday, so that's going to be an interesting game to see how they do. And then coming up after that, you have Alvarena University, who is a cold-blooded team. They've been blowing teams out of the water as of late. They're 14-2-1. After that, it's a home against Montclair State. So first game's away at Montclair, and then the next game's at home the following day. They're 5-10. They're struggling this year. After that, a doubleheader at home versus NJCU. And then after that, once again, a home against Rutgers Newark, and they close out this 10-game stretch, or 11-game stretch technically, with a doubleheader at Kane University, who's been pretty good this season.
Can I just say something real quick? It doesn't matter who you're playing on your schedule. As long as these guys are failing to string together consecutive hits, we're not going to beat anybody. We have gone through, literally, if you take the 3 shutouts in Florida, plus the 6 innings here, we've called another game where they failed to score runs. That's what? 27 plus 6 is 33, 4-7. It's 33 innings of scoreless baseball. These guys have to do better do a better job of producing runs if they want to be in any of these ball games. The NJAC is one of the best Division III conferences in the United States. You're not going to beat anybody if you fail to string together hits, and that's what the Pioneers have been doing early on in the season, and it's really shooting themselves in the foot. They are such a better baseball team than 7-7-2.
All right, guys, we have time for one more question. I want to give the softball team
For sure.
credit where credit is due.
Absolutely.
Now, they played at the same time as the baseball team on their own field, and they played University in a doubleheader, and they whacked them. And it was a great couple of games.
No
Can you guys talk
question.
about that?
They had a doubleheader at 3-5 against Jude University. I wish we had more time to discuss it because, man, they've been incredible this season. Over the course of their 2 games against Jude University, if we take a look at the numbers real quick from yesterday, they would end up beating them through 2 games, 16-0. They had a fantastic performance. You look at the numbers for Jude University, they dropped to 3-11 after the 2 games against the Pioneers. They batted below 100, and the Pioneers batted 420. They had 10 hits and 16 runs, and they're now 8-6 on the season. Apologies for that, but they've been having a fantastic run so far. I'm really excited to cover the softball team going out for the rest of the season.
That was great, man. Nope.
Well, for me, the 2 players who stuck out specifically are going to get a little micro perspective in here. Game 1, Kim Fryer goes 2 for 3. She comes across the plate to score twice. In Game 2, Rachel Wasilak, 3 for 3, 2 runs and 2 RBIs. I'm a guy who likes scoring, and these girls produced runs yesterday, so my hats are off to them.
Speaking of run producing, Vanessa Archibald, who has been hitting second for this team, has been one of the best base runners in the entire conference. She was 3 for 3 yesterday in the second game versus Drew with an RBI and a run scored. She does a great job on the bases, and she's a great table setter.
Sam?
Caitlin Peretti stood out for me. She did better in the first game than she did in the second, but she still helped the Pioneers pull off both wins. In the first game, she was 2 for 4, had 3 RBIs. The second game, she was 0 for 3, but she still was able to get an RBI. And a lot of these girls played in both games, and it was very impressive that they were able to pull off 2 wins instead of 1. It is very hard to do that.
All right, thank you, guys. Now, don't go anywhere. Up next, we have the preview of the Final Four.